The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, though Jiho would not remember that detail until much later. He was sitting in his office at the United Earth Space Command, reviewing reports about the new mining operations on Europa, when every screen in the building went dark. Then they all displayed the same thing, a symbol that looked like a spiral galaxy surrounded by geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. The symbol pulsed once, twice, and then words appeared, not in Korean, not in English, not in any human language. Yet somehow Jiho understood them perfectly. The message was simple and absolute. The Galactic Council requested Earth's presence. Humanity had been observed. Humanity had been judged worthy of evaluation. A delegation must be prepared within 30 planetary rotations. Jiho sat very still for a long moment. He had spent 15 years working in space exploration and defense. He had read every report, every speculation, every theory about potential alien contact. None of them had prepared him for this moment. The message was not a question. It was a summons. Within an hour, every major government on Earth was in emergency session. The message had appeared everywhere simultaneously. Military installations, civilian computers, even personal devices. There was no denying it, no covering it up. Humanity was not alone, and someone out there had been watching them for a very long time. The debates raged for 3 days. Some wanted to ignore the message, to refuse the summons. Others argued for full military mobilization. But in the end, the choice was obvious. If these aliens could reach into Earth's system so easily, they could do far worse. And besides, humanity had always looked to the stars with curiosity. Now the stars were looking back. Jiho was chosen to lead the delegation. He was not the most senior diplomat, nor the most decorated officer. But he had a reputation for staying calm under pressure, for seeing problems clearly and solving them efficiently. He was also practical, which the selection committee decided was more important than being brilliant. He was given 1 week to choose his team, 1 week to select the people who would represent all of humanity, to beings they could not imagine. The weight of it pressed on him every waking moment, but Jiho had learned long ago that pressure either crushed you or made you focus. He chose to focus. His first choice was Yuna. She was young, only 32, but she had 3 doctorates in astrophysics, quantum mechanics, and xenobiology. More importantly, she had spent 5 years developing theories about potential alien life. Her papers were considered creative but impractical by most of her colleagues. Jiho thought that made her perfect. If they were about to meet the impractical made real, they needed someone who could think beyond human limitations. Yuna accepted immediately. She did not ask about the risks or the unknowns. She simply said yes and began packing. Jiho appreciated that kind of decisiveness. Next was Taeyang. The man was a legend in military circles, though most civilians had never heard his name. He had commanded peacekeeping forces in 3 different conflict zones, had negotiated hostage releases, and had once held a defensive position for 6 days against impossible odds. He was 45 years old, and had the kind of calm intensity that made people instinctively trust him. More than that, he understood strategy not just as military action but as a way of thinking. If things went wrong, Jiho wanted Taeyang beside him. Taeyang took longer to decide. He met Jiho in a small cafe in Seoul and listened to the offer without expression. Then he asked one question: "Do you think they mean us harm?" Jiho answered honestly that he did not know. Taeyang nodded slowly and said, "Then we should be prepared for anything." He accepted. For cultural expertise, Jiho chose Hana. She was an anthropologist who had spent her career studying how different human cultures communicated, resolved conflicts, and built communities. She spoke 9 languages fluently and had lived on every continent. She understood that culture was not decoration, it was the foundation of how beings made sense of their world. If they needed to bridge the gap between human and alien thinking, Hana was their best hope. Hana was teaching a class when Jiho found her. She listened to his explanation, asked 3 questions about the timeline, then told her students they should study comparative mythology for next week because she would be unavailable. She walked out with Jiho without packing anything. "I'll get what I need," she said simply. The last member was Do-hyun. He was the kind of engineer other engineers spoke about with reverence. He did not invent new theories or publish groundbreaking papers. Instead, he solved impossible problems with whatever materials were available. He had once repaired a failing space station with spare parts and determination, saving 47 lives. He was 50 years old, quiet, and utterly reliable. Jiho needed someone who could look at alien technology and figure out how to work with it or around it. Do-hyun was in his workshop when Jiho arrived, covered in grease and surrounded by disassembled machinery. He listened to the offer while cleaning his hands on a rag. Then he looked at Jiho and said, "Will they let me bring tools?" Jiho said he assumed so. Do-hyun nodded. "Then I'm in." The team assembled 1 week later at the orbital shipyard above Earth. They stood together for the first time, 5 individuals chosen to speak for 8 billion. The weight of it was staggering, but none of them showed fear. They introduced themselves formally, shared their backgrounds, and began discussing what they knew, which was almost nothing. The ship provided for them was waiting in high orbit. It had appeared 3 days earlier, simply materializing in space as if it had always been there. It was elegant and strange, all smooth curves and materials that shimmered like liquid metal. Engineers had examined it carefully from a distance. The technology was far beyond anything humanity had created, but it seemed safe. The ship was clearly designed for them. As they boarded, Jiho turned to look at Earth one last time. It hung there in the darkness, blue and white and perfect. Somewhere down there, billions of people were watching, hoping, praying. Some feared the aliens. Others welcomed them. Most simply wanted to know what would happen next. Jiho felt that same uncertainty, but he also felt something else. Determination. Humanity had climbed out of caves and crossed oceans and reached for the stars. They had survived wars and plagues and disasters that should have ended them. They had endured. Whatever waited for them at the Galactic Council, whatever judgments or challenges they faced, humanity would face them standing. Not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding recognition. The ship's door closed behind them, and they began their journey into the unknown. The journey took 7 days, though time felt strange inside the alien ship. It moved through space in ways that made no sense according to human physics. Sometimes stars stretched into lines. Sometimes they seemed to fold around the ship like fabric. Yuna spent hours staring at the displays, muttering calculations that led nowhere. Even she could not figure out how the ship worked. The Nexus station appeared without warning. One moment there was empty space, and the next there was a structure so massive it made Earth's largest cities look like toys. It was shaped like a ring within rings, each layer rotating at different speeds. Lights flickered across its surface in patterns that might have been windows or might have been something else entirely. The station was beautiful and terrifying in its scale. Their ship approached slowly, following guidance signals they could not detect but somehow understood. As they drew closer, they could see other ships arriving from all directions. Each one was different. Some were organic, looking like living creatures swimming through space. Others were geometric and precise, all sharp angles and glowing edges. A few seemed to be made of pure energy, barely holding shape at all. "How many species are there?" Hana asked softly, her face pressed against the viewing port. "The message said 200, Jiho replied, "but I think we are about to find out if that number is accurate." The ship docked automatically, connecting to the station with a soft vibration. The door opened and they stepped into an airlock that adjusted itself around them. The atmosphere changed, becoming thicker and warmer but still breathable. Someone or something had prepared this place for human physiology. Beyond the airlock was a corridor that curved upward in a way that should not have been possible. Gravity shifted as they walked, keeping them oriented correctly even as the floor became the ceiling. The walls were translucent, showing glimpses of the station beyond. Enormous spaces filled with beings that defied description. Gardens growing under artificial suns, rivers of liquid flowing upward. They followed guidance lights embedded in the floor. Other beings passed them in the corridor, and each time both sides stopped to stare. The aliens were incredible in their variety. Some were tall and thin with too many joints in their limbs. Others were short and wide, their skin covered in patterns that changed colors. One being seemed to float, surrounded by a mist that smelled like flowers. Another was made entirely of crystalline structures that chimed softly as it moved. But the aliens stared at the humans with something that looked like shock. Some backed away. Others tilted their heads or equivalent body parts, studying the humans with what might have been scientific curiosity, or might have been fear. Yuna noticed it first. "They are afraid of us," she whispered. That makes no sense, Taiyang replied. Look at them. Some of these beings could tear us apart without effort. Maybe, Hana said slowly, but maybe they are not afraid of what we can do. Maybe they are afraid of what we are. The corridor ended at a massive door that opened silently. Beyond it was the grand chamber, and the sight of it stopped all 5 humans in their tracks. The room was impossibly large, stretching up and out until it faded into darkness or distance. Platforms floated at different levels, each one holding representatives from different species. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, illuminating without casting shadows. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform, clearly meant for them. As they walked toward it, the noise in the room dropped. Thousands of beings stopped their conversations and turned to watch. The silence spread like a wave until the entire chamber was quiet. Jiho led his team to the platform. They stood together, back straight, facing the assembly with as much dignity as they could manage. The platform rose slowly, lifting them to the middle level where they could see and be seen by everyone. An alien approached their platform, floating rather than walking. It was tall and elegant, its body composed of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with internal light. When it spoke, the sound came not from a mouth but from the crystal itself, vibrating in a way that created words directly in their minds. I am Vothran, Elder of the Council. You are the delegation from Earth? We are, Jiho replied, surprised that his words seemed to translate automatically. I am Jiho, and these are my colleagues. We represent humanity. Vothran's crystal body flickered with colors that might have been emotions. You are unexpected. The monitoring data suggested a developing species, primitive but promising. Yet you arrive in a military vessel wearing armor beneath your formal clothing. You carry weapons, though you were instructed to come in peace. And your biology is... The elder paused and the crystal dimmed. Disturbing. Taiyang's hand moved slightly, a reflex toward the small device in his jacket, but he controlled himself. Jiho kept his expression neutral. We were not informed about a prohibition on defensive equipment. As for our biology, we are what our world made us. Is there a problem? Another alien joined them, this one looking almost like a large bird covered in silver feathers. It chirped and whistled, the sounds becoming words through the same translation effect. A problem? Your species evolved on a Class 12 death world. Such planets are monitored specifically because they should not produce sapient life. The conditions are too hostile, too unstable. Yet here you stand. Yuna stepped forward. What is a death world? The bird-like alien fluttered its feathers in what might have been distress. A planet where survival requires constant struggle. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme weather, aggressive predators. Most civilizations in this chamber evolved on garden worlds with stable climates and peaceful ecosystems. Your world is rated among the most dangerous we have ever observed. Earth seems normal to us, Hana said carefully. What about it concerns you? Vothran's crystal body pulsed again. Everything. Your gravity is twice what most species consider comfortable. Your atmospheric oxygen levels would be toxic to many of us. Your weather systems generate storms that could destroy cities. Your oceans contain pressures and creatures that most species only encounter in their nightmares. And yet you call this normal. The bird-like alien continued. We ran biological scans when you arrived. Your bone density is extraordinary. Your muscle structure suggests strength far beyond your size. Your immune systems are aggressive enough to attack most known pathogens. You have redundant organs and healing factors that border on regenerative. One of you, it looked at Taiyang, has survived injuries that would have killed any of us permanently. Taiyang met the alien's gaze steadily. I am a soldier. Soldiers get injured. We heal and continue our duty. But you should not heal, the bird alien insisted. The wounds in your medical records include tissue damage that should have been fatal. Yet you recovered. All of you carry similar histories. It is as if your species refuses to accept death. A murmur ran through the chamber. Beings on platforms far above and below began speaking in dozens of languages, the sound rising like a wave. The humans stood their ground, uncertain whether they were being praised or condemned. Vothran raised one crystalline arm, and silence returned. This is unprecedented. We must decide how to proceed. But first, you must undergo the trial of worth. Every species that seeks to join the Council must prove they can contribute to galactic civilization. You will face 3 challenges: technology, culture, and crisis response. Do you accept these terms? Jiho looked at his team. Each of them nodded slightly. He turned back to Vothran. We accept. Then let us begin, Vothran said. The crystal body pulsed with light, and let us discover what humanity truly is. The first challenge began immediately. A section of the chamber transformed, walls sliding away to reveal a testing area filled with displays and equipment. Vothran gestured toward it with a crystalline limb. The technology challenge. Every species brings their innovations to share with the Council. Show us what humanity has created. Demonstrate your understanding of science and engineering. Dohyun stepped forward carrying a case he had brought from their ship. He moved calmly, ignoring the thousands of eyes watching him. He set the case down and opened it carefully. Inside were several devices, each one representing a different aspect of human technology. He lifted the first item, a small cube that glowed with internal light. This is a quantum processor. It uses entangled particles to perform calculations. The design is simple but effective. He activated it, and holographic displays appeared in the air, showing complex mathematical operations being solved in microseconds. Several aliens leaned forward with interest. The bird-like alien chirped excitedly. Quantum computing is impressive but not unusual. Many species have developed similar systems. Dohyun nodded. Yes, but we developed this in less than 200 years. How long did it take your species? The bird alien went silent. The question hung in the air uncomfortably. Dohyun continued, pulling out the next device. It looked like a small metal sphere. This is a medical nanite cluster. Microscopic machines that can enter a living body, identify damage, and repair it at the cellular level. We use these to treat injuries and diseases that were once fatal. He demonstrated by placing the sphere on his arm. It dissolved into his skin harmlessly. A display showed the nanites spreading through his bloodstream, repairing minor damage from the journey. The watching aliens murmured in surprise. Several looked disturbed. You put machines inside your bodies? One asked, its voice high and nervous. When necessary, Dohyun replied. It saves lives. Is that not worth some discomfort? The third device made the chamber go completely silent. Dohyun lifted it carefully, a compact cylinder that hummed with contained energy. This is a plasma lance, a weapon. It can cut through most known materials. We developed it for mining operations, but it can be used for defense if needed. Vothran's crystal body flickered rapidly. You bring weapons to a peace summit? I bring tools, Dohyun corrected. Humanity learned long ago that the difference between a tool and a weapon depends on how you use it. This device can break through asteroid cores to extract resources, or it can defend against threats. We choose its purpose. He demonstrated by firing it at a testing block the aliens provided. The beam cut through it like paper, leaving clean edges that glowed with heat. The precision was remarkable. The power was frightening. Yuna joined Dohyun, pulling up technical displays. Our technology developed quickly because we needed it to. Every innovation solved a problem we faced. Quantum computers helped us model weather patterns to predict disasters. Medical nanites helped us survive diseases that killed millions. Energy weapons helped us clear dangerous debris from space lanes. We built what we needed to survive. The chamber remained quiet. Finally, a small alien covered in fur spoke up. Your advancement rate is concerning. Most species take tens of thousands of years to reach your level. You accomplished it in mere centuries. This suggests either exceptional intelligence or exceptional desperation. Both, Yuna said simply. We are smart enough to recognize problems and desperate enough to solve them quickly. Is that not a useful trait? No one answered. Vothran gestured and the testing area transformed again. The second challenge, culture. Show us who you are beyond your machines. What drives humanity? What do you value? What makes you worth knowing? Hana stepped forward. She carried nothing except a small data pad. She looked at the assembled aliens, at being so different from humans that they might as well be from different realities. Then she smiled. Let me tell you a story, she began. Long ago, before humans had language or tools, we lived in small groups and struggled to survive each day. We were not the strongest creatures on our world. We were not the fastest or the largest. But we had something special. We had imagination. She activated her data pad and images appeared in the air. Cave paintings from Earth, tens of thousands of years old. Simple images of animals and hunters and hands pressed against stone walls. These are some of the oldest art we have found. They were made by humans who had almost nothing, who lived hard and dangerous lives, yet they took time to create beauty. They took time to tell stories. They took time to leave messages for people they would never meet. That is what makes us human. We create meaning even when there is none. The images changed, showing art from different periods of human history, sculptures and paintings and music, architecture that soared toward the sky, literature that explored the deepest questions of existence. Each piece was accompanied by brief explanations of the context and culture that created it. We make art about love and death and hope and fear. We write stories about heroes and villains and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We compose music that can make us laugh or cry. We build monuments to remember our past and inspire our future. Even in our darkest times we create. A new image appeared and several aliens recoiled. It showed a war-torn city, buildings destroyed and people suffering. But in the foreground, someone had painted a mural on a broken wall, bright colors showing children playing under a peaceful sky. This was made during one of our wars. Someone who had lost everything took time to paint hope. That is humanity. We refuse to let darkness win. We refuse to stop dreaming of better days. Hana's voice grew stronger. You asked what drives us. We are driven by curiosity and compassion. We want to understand the universe and protect those we love. We argue and fight and sometimes hurt each other. But we also forgive and heal and try to be better. We are not perfect, but we are trying. Is that not enough? The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then slowly sounds began to emerge. The aliens were discussing what they had seen, their voices carrying tones that might have been approval or might have been uncertainty. Vothran spoke, the crystal voice resonating through the space. Your culture is intense. You feel things strongly. Too strongly, perhaps. Such passion can be dangerous. Or it can be beautiful, Hana replied. You decide. Before Vothran could respond, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. The floating platform shuddered and several aliens cried out in fear. A mechanical voice echoed through the space, speaking in the universal language the translation systems provided. Emergency. Stellar event detected. Radiation wave approaching station. Impact in 17 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately. Chaos erupted. Aliens began rushing toward exits, their organized society dissolving into panic. Platforms collided as beings tried to flee. Vothran's crystal body pulsed rapidly with colors that could only be alarm. This cannot be happening, the elder said, the calm voice finally showing strain. The Nexus has safety protocols. We should have had days of warning. You have 17 minutes, Taeyang said, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Stop talking. Start moving. Vothran turned to look at him. You are giving orders? Someone needs to, Taeyang replied. Your people are panicking. Organization has failed. If evacuation continues like this, thousands will die in the crush. Even before the radiation arrives, you need command structure. You need discipline. You need someone who has dealt with disasters before. He did not wait for permission. Taeyang moved to the central platform and activated the communication systems. His voice boomed through the chamber, strong and absolute. This is Commander Taeyang of Earth. All species will evacuate in organized groups according to my instructions. Flight-capable species will exit through upper ports. Large species will use main corridors. Small species will use emergency tunnels. Move now, stay calm. You will survive if you follow orders. The chamber paused, thousands of beings looking at this small human who dared to command them. Then slowly they began to move in the patterns he described. The chaos organized itself. The panic became purpose. Jiho grabbed Vothran. Where are your shield generators? Can we boost their power? It will not matter, Vothran said, the crystal voice dull with despair. The radiation wave is too strong. The shields will fail. Evacuation is our only option. Then we make the shield stronger, Yuna said, already running calculations on her portable device. Dohyun, can you modify their power systems? If I can see them, I can improve them, Dohyun replied. The third challenge had arrived, and humanity was not about to fail. The shield generators were located deep in the station's core, down corridors that twisted in impossible directions. Dohyun ran with Yuna close behind and Vothran struggling to keep pace. The elder's crystalline body was not built for speed, but desperation pushed it forward. They reached the generator room to find it abandoned. The technicians had fled with everyone else. Banks of equipment lined the walls, pulsing with energy that made the air feel thick and charged. Warning lights flashed across dozens of displays, all showing the same message. shield capacity at 30% and falling. Do-hyun did not hesitate. He moved to the nearest control panel, his hands flying over the alien interface. The symbols meant nothing to him, but the patterns made sense. Energy flow, power distribution, thermal regulation. The underlying logic was universal. This design is inefficient, he said, not looking up from his work. You are bleeding power through redundant safety systems. They are preventing the shields from reaching full strength. Those safety systems prevent overload, Vothran protested. Without them, the generators could explode. And without stronger shields, the radiation will kill everyone on this station, Do-hyun replied. So we accept the risk of explosion or guarantee death. Which do you prefer? Vothran's crystal body dimmed. The elder had no answer. Yuna was already pulling cables from her portable equipment, connecting it to the alien systems. I am bypassing the safety protocols. Do-hyun, when I give the signal, redirect all power from non-essential systems. Life support, gravity control, everything except the shields. That will make most of the station uninhabitable, Vothran said. Most of the station is evacuating anyway, Yuna replied. We only need shields strong enough to protect the people who cannot leave in time. 17 minutes has already become 12. We work with what we have. Above them, Taeyang was managing the evacuation with ruthless efficiency. He had divided the chamber into sectors and assigned each one an exit route. Flight-capable species went up through opened roof ports. Aquatic species were directed to water-filled transit tubes. Heavy species used reinforced corridors designed for cargo. Hana worked beside him, speaking to different species in calm, clear voices. She could not speak their languages, but the translation systems carried her tone as much as her words. She radiated confidence and care, making frightened beings feel safe enough to move in organized lines rather than panicked crowds. How long do we have? Someone asked, an alien that looked like a collection of floating tentacles. Enough time if you keep moving, Hana replied. Your people are doing well. Stay together. Help those who are slower. We will all survive this. She did not know if that was true, but she said it with such certainty that the alien believed her. It spread the message to others, and the calm spread like ripples in water. Jiho was coordinating with the station's automated systems, trying to understand the evacuation protocols. What he found troubled him. The Nexus had procedures for orderly departures, scheduled transports, organized processing. It had no real disaster response. The station had existed for thousands of years without serious crisis, and that very peace had made it vulnerable. They are not prepared for this, he muttered to Taeyang through their communication link. Their whole civilization is built on stability. They have forgotten how to handle chaos. Then it is fortunate we have not, Taeyang replied. His voice was steady, but Jiho could hear the strain underneath. The commander was managing a rescue operation involving thousands of aliens, each with different needs and capabilities, using systems he barely understood. It should have been impossible. Somehow he was making it work. In the generator room, Do-hyun made the final connections. Sweat ran down his face despite the cool air. His hands were burned from touching alien components that ran too hot for human comfort, but he ignored the pain. Ready. Redirecting power now, Yuna said. Her fingers danced over her device, sending commands into the station's network. Throughout the Nexus, lights went dark. Gravity fluctuated. Life support systems shut down in empty sections. All that power flowed to one place. The shield generators roared. The sound was physical, a vibration that made their bones ache. Energy levels climbed 40%, 50, 60. Warning alarms screamed as components began to overheat. Smoke rose from several panels. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. It is not enough, Vothran said, watching the displays. Even at this level, the shields will only hold for a few minutes against the radiation wave. The remaining evacuation will take longer. Then we boost it more, Do-hyun said. There is nothing left to boost. We have used everything. Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. Something passed between them. A shared understanding that needed no words. She nodded once. Our ship, Do-hyun said. It has a fusion core. We can channel that power into your generators. The ship is docked at the outer ring, Vothran protested. There is no way to create that connection in the time we have. I will make a way, Do-hyun replied. He was already running toward the door. Yuna stayed behind, her fingers working to keep the current system stable, while Do-hyun improvised. The generators were screaming now, pushed beyond their design limits. She watched the numbers climb and the warnings multiply, and she thought about probability and acceptable risk. By all rational calculation, what they were attempting should fail. She smiled grimly. Humanity had never been very good at accepting what should be possible. Do-Yun reached the docking ring in 4 minutes, a run that should have taken 10. He burst into their ship, heading straight for the engine core. The fusion reactor was humanity's pride, a compact star contained by magnetic fields and careful engineering. It provided enough power to move a ship between stars. Now he was going to use it to save a space station. He worked with speed born from desperation, connecting the ship's power systems to the station's network using cables and adapters, never designed for this purpose. It was the ugliest repair work he had ever done, held together by welds and hope. But it would work. It had to work. Yuna, connection established, he said into his comm. On your command, stand by, Yuna replied. She watched the radiation wave on the sensors, a wall of death approaching at impossible speed, 2 minutes until impact. The evacuation was 70% complete. Thousands of beings were still inside the station. All remaining personnel find shelter immediately. Taeyang's voice echoed through the halls. The shields are going to maximum power. Seek the deepest interior spaces and brace for impact. Yuna took a breath. Do-Hyun, now. The fusion reactor's power flowed through makeshift connections across docking rings through the station's network. The shield generators received a surge of energy that should have destroyed them instantly. Instead, miraculously, they held. The shields expanded, growing from a thin shell to a thick barrier of energy. 70%, 80, 90. The numbers climbed past anything the station had ever achieved. The radiation wave struck. For 3 seconds, every display went white. The station shuddered like a living thing in pain. Metal groaned. Welds cracked. But the shields held, absorbing energies that could have boiled atmospheres and melted steel. Then it was over. The wave passed. The station survived. Alarms slowly went quiet. Emergency lights stopped flashing. In the silence that followed, thousands of beings realized they were alive. The evacuation had worked. The shields had held. In the generator room, Yuna collapsed against the wall. Her hands were shaking. She had pushed alien technology past its limits and somehow it had worked. She started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound of relief. Vothran stood in the center of the room, crystal body pulsing with colors that might have been shock or awe or gratitude. The elder looked at Yuna, at this young human who had just saved countless lives. How did you know it would work? I didn't, Yuna admitted. But the alternative was death. When those are your choices, you try the impossible and hope for luck. Throughout the station, the same question echoed. How had 5 humans, a species the Council had never heard of until days ago, saved them when their own systems had failed? Taeyang joined Jiho on the central platform. Around them, aliens were beginning to emerge from shelters, cautiously checking that the danger had passed. The commander looked exhausted but satisfied. That could have gone worse, he said quietly. It could have gone better, Jiho replied, but we did what we could. Hana approached them, helping a small injured alien that had been trampled in the initial panic. She was covered in dust and alien blood, but she was smiling. I think we passed the 3rd challenge, she said. Bothran's voice echoed through the chamber, calling all council members who remained. The formal trial was over. Now came the reckoning. Now humanity would learn how the galaxy truly saw them. The Grand Chamber assembled again 3 hours later. The damage had been contained. The casualties had been minimal. The station would survive. But everything had changed. Jiho and his team stood on the central platform, no longer as supplicants seeking approval, but as equals who had earned respect through action. Around them, hundreds of alien species watched with new eyes. Vothran approached slowly, the elder's crystal body pulsing with colors that suggested deep thought. When the elder spoke, the voice carried weight that silenced the entire chamber. Humanity has completed the trial of worth. Your technology is advanced and practical. Your culture is passionate and creative. Your crisis response was exceptional. By all traditional measures, you have proven yourselves worthy of council membership. A pause stretched through the space. Jiho felt his team tense beside him. Something was coming. Something more than simple acceptance. However, Vothran continued, we find ourselves facing questions that have never been asked before. You are unlike any species we have encountered. We must understand what you are before we decide what you will become. The elder gestured and displays activated throughout the chamber. They showed Earth rotating in space, a blue jewel that looked peaceful and beautiful from orbit. Then the view zoomed closer, and the truth revealed itself. Massive storm systems covered entire continents. Volcanoes spewed ash into the sky. Tectonic plates ground against each other, causing earthquakes that reshaped coastlines. Ice caps advanced and retreated, burying and exposing land. The oceans churned with currents strong enough to destroy ships. "This is your homeworld," Vothran said. "A Class 12 death world. One of the most hostile environments known to produce complex life. We have studied the data extensively since your arrival, trying to understand how sapient beings could evolve here." Another alien joined Vothran, the bird-like creature that had spoken earlier. Its silver feathers were ruffled with agitation. "We analyzed your evolutionary history. Your species faced extinction at least 17 times, ice ages that should have killed you, supervolcano eruptions that blotted out your sun, asteroid impacts that destroyed most life on your planet. Yet somehow you survived. Not just survived. You flourished. Images changed, showing human history. Early humans huddling in caves, fighting against predators that outmatched them in every physical way. Humans crossing frozen wastes with nothing but fur and fire. Humans building civilizations in deserts and jungles and mountains that should have been uninhabitable. Your planet is not just hostile," the bird alien continued. "It is actively murderous. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere corrodes metal. The weather can kill in minutes. The oceans hide predators that hunt with intelligence and malice. Even your microorganisms are aggressive. A simple infection that we could ignore might kill our species. Yet to you it is merely an inconvenience." Yuna stepped forward. "Yes, Earth is dangerous, but it is also beautiful. It gave us clean water and breathable air and food that grows from the soil. It has seasons that change and renew. It has diversity of life that staggers the imagination. You call it a death world. We call it home. Because you know nothing else," Vothran replied gently. "Let me show you what we know." The displays changed again, now showing other worlds. Planets where the weather was always mild, where predators were rare, where evolution proceeded slowly and peacefully. Garden worlds where sapient species emerged through cooperation rather than competition. "These are typical worlds that produce civilizations," Vothran explained. "Stable, predictable, safe. The beings that evolve here have time to develop culture and philosophy. They reach for the stars out of curiosity rather than necessity. They build civilizations based on plenty rather than scarcity." "Sounds boring," Taeyang said bluntly. Several aliens gasped at the rudeness, but Vothran's colors shifted in what might have been amusement. "Perhaps, but it also produces peaceful societies. Look at us. The Galactic Council has existed for 50,000 years. In that time we have had disputes, but we have avoided wars. We have had disagreements, but we have avoided genocide. We have built something stable and lasting." "At what cost?" Hana asked softly. "What do you mean? I have been watching you all since we arrived. You are kind and intelligent and advanced beyond our understanding, but you are also frightened. Not just of us, of everything. You have built your entire civilization on avoiding risk. You evacuate rather than fight. You negotiate rather than confront. When crisis struck, you panicked because you had no experience with real danger." Hana's voice grew stronger. "You asked what makes humanity different. This is it. We come from a world that taught us that safety is temporary, that disaster is always possible, that survival requires constant vigilance. We do not see this as a curse. We see it as a gift. It made us strong. It made us adaptable. It made us refuse to give up even when giving up would be easier. It also made you violent," another alien interjected, one that looked like it was made of flowing liquid. "We have studied your history. You fight each other constantly. Wars that last years, decades, generations. You have weapons designed to kill your own kind in vast numbers. You have committed atrocities against your own species. How can we trust beings capable of such cruelty?" The chamber went silent. This was the question everyone had been avoiding. Humanity's capacity for violence was undeniable. Jiho spoke, his voice calm but firm. "We do not deny our history. Yes, we have fought each other. Yes, we have made terrible mistakes. Yes, we have harmed our own people in ways that shame us. But we have also learned. We have grown. We have built peace from war and cooperation from conflict." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or equivalent organs of dozens of different species. You evolved on worlds that taught you peace. We evolved on a world that taught us struggle. Both paths have value. Both paths have wisdom. But only one path prepares you for a galaxy that is not always kind. Taeyang continued the thought. You see our military training and call it aggression. We see it as preparedness. You see our weapons and call them tools of violence. We see them as insurance against threats. You have lived in peace for 50,000 years. That is admirable. But what happens when something threatens that peace? What happens when you face something that does not want to negotiate? Such threats do not exist, Vothran said. But the crystal voice wavered slightly. Are you certain? Yuna asked. The galaxy is vast. You have explored only a fraction of it. Can you truly say there is nothing dangerous out there? Nothing that might challenge your peaceful assumptions? The silence that followed was answer enough. Vothran's crystal body pulsed with colors that cycled through the spectrum, each one suggesting a different emotion. Finally, the elder spoke. You are right. We have avoided the darker regions of space. We have not ventured into areas where our sensors detect anomalies. We have built our civilization in the safe zones and convinced ourselves that the rest does not matter. But it does matter, does it not? Ignoring danger does not make it disappear. No, Jiho agreed. It only makes you vulnerable when danger finally arrives. Vothran was silent for a long moment. Then the elder turned to face the assembled council. I call for a vote. Humanity has demonstrated technological capability, cultural depth, and crisis management skills beyond question. But they are different from us in fundamental ways. We must decide, do we embrace this difference or do we reject it out of fear? The voting took place in silence, each species communicating their decision through methods that varied from light signals to chemical releases to pure thought transmission. Jiho and his team waited, knowing their fate rested with beings they had known for less than a day. Finally, Vothran turned back to them. The crystal body glowed with a steady, warm light. The council has decided. Humanity is granted provisional membership. You will have all rights and responsibilities of council species with one condition. What condition? Jiho asked. You will serve as wardens of the dark zones, the regions of space we have avoided, the anomalies we have not investigated, the potential threats we have ignored. You will explore them. You will assess them. And if necessary, you will handle them. We recognize that your nature, forged in hardship, makes you uniquely suited for this role. Taeyang smiled grimly. So we are your soldiers, your shields against the things you do not want to face. No, Vothran corrected. You are our partners. We offer knowledge, resources, and support. You offer courage and capability. Together we will be stronger than either could be alone. Is this acceptable? Jiho looked at his team. Yuna nodded, her eyes bright with the promise of exploring unknown regions. Dohyun shrugged, already thinking about the technology he would encounter. Hana smiled, imagining the cultures he might discover. Taeyang stood straight, accepting the burden of protection with quiet pride. It is acceptable, Jiho said. Humanity accepts the terms. The chamber erupted in sounds that might have been cheers or might have been sighs of relief. The decision was made. Earth had a place among the stars. Later, as they prepared to return to their ship, Vothran approached Jiho privately. The elder's crystal body was dim, suggesting weariness or deep thought. I must tell you something, Vothran said. When we first detected your species, some council members argued for containment. They said Deathworlders,